mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yes, you love me and I love you. Putting on for my people, the love for heroes, building community. Can you hear me now? Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Oh, can you hear me now? 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 Hear me now.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Can You Hear Me Now? I am your host, Lady Madeline Patterson, with my beautiful co host here. And yes, the title of our show is Can You Hear Me Now? So when you call 911, that's a question, you're desperately trying and hoping the answer is to yes, that yes, you can hear me. Because in that moment, when the world is falling apart, when someone you love is in danger, when you don't know what to do, the voice on the other end of that call is everything. But we never think about that person, the one who answers the phone, the one who stays calm when you're panicking, the one who holds your crisis with you until help arrives. But today, we get a chance to meet the voice, one of the voices behind the 911 calls that we make and need so desperately. Ms. Valerie Barrios is here with us, and she is a 911 operator with the Austin Police Department. Welcome,
Thank you
Ms.
for having
Valerie.
me. I'm really
It is
excited.
so good to see you.
Likewise.
You know, um, I met Valerie at a community event just the other day, and something just about her was just, I don't know, just coming through the conversation. And then listening to you at 911, and it's like, well, I need you on the show. We need to hear from a woman who has been immersed in healthcare as a responder, and then the 911. I can just imagine. So we want to just really get into it.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. So for those that don't know, what does a 911 operator do?
So we're essentially the first point of contact anytime you contact 911. So in Austin, we have our 911 operators that will decipher if you need to go to EMS, police, or fire, or even mental health services is something new that Austin PD implemented a couple years ago. So we actually do have mental health counselors on site to help in the event of a mental health crisis, whereas it's just somebody kind of needing an intervention intermediately beforehand, just talking to somebody like, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I just need to talk to somebody without actually needing immediate response in person. So depending on what a caller calls for, I need police, somebody's breaking into my house, or I'm having a medical emergency. So as the first point of contact, we decipher where that call needs to go to. So I specifically take calls for Austin PD. If they have an emergency medical, then we get them over to EMS. And if they have a fire-related incident, then we get them to the fire department. And each agency has their own dispatchers as well.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. What drew you to be a 911 operator?
So years ago, I actually used to be a respiratory therapist. And life happened. I was in a bad car accident, and it took away my immediate ability to physically perform that job. But I still felt that I had a duty to help people. Life happened. I got married. I had a son. I focused on raising him, and I just felt that at the time I wouldn't be able to dedicate myself to that kind of work. I didn't want to miss out on first steps and first days of school. And as a first responder, you miss out on a lot of that. We made the move to Texas in 2019, and it was, what are you doing? I'm missing out on the me portion of myself. Where's my self-worth at? So it was finding a little bit of compromise. And again, I was a single mom, moved out here. And what example am I setting for him? And what foundation am I also going to be able to build for him as a single mom with no support from the other parent? And life is real in those moments. And so I had moved here in like July, and shortly after COVID hit, I got laid off from my job, and it's, what are you doing? And I always had that need where I wanted to go back, and I felt, in what capacity can I still help, feel useful, feel like I have a purpose, and who's hiring? And yeah, so Austin was hiring, during COVID, and I said, what better way to fulfill kind of like all my check boxes?
I love that. I want to get into that one, but I want to pause for just a minute because you pivoted, and we're going to get into that with the pivot because and for others who also may need to pivot. But as a 911 operator, what are some of the hardest calls that you've had to deal with?
Children. As a
Really?
parent myself, it's children calls, anything related, to children. And honestly, one of the calls that does stand out, and it wasn't even an actual physical call. She texted 911. A 10-year-old little girl hiding in the closet with her two siblings, and her mother had been in a physical disturbance with the boyfriend. And she's texting, and I'm not even hearing this little girl, but the fact that she knew her address, her gate code, her building number, the realization after the call was like, how many times has she done this? How many times has she gone through this? How many times has she had to hide her siblings in the closet? And it's like, I went home and I hugged my baby. Like, he doesn't even know. Probably doesn't even know his apartment number now. But that realization of that, children are growing up like this, unfortunately. And it's just, it's sad.
Wow, those are the kind of calls that kind of just stick with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you talked about 2019, 2020. What has the pandemic? What has happened since the pandemic? Have you seen a shift in the calls during the pandemic and versus where we are now?
I have. I got hired during the pandemic, I trained during the pandemic, and it was a much different vibe as far as people's approach to situations. I think the tolerance for human interaction has shifted, whereas before I think we were a little bit more welcoming, a little bit more people friendly. And I think that disconnection of the society of like now we've regressed into our homes. Now we don't have to have face-to-face conversations. Everything's delivered, and it's a lot easier and to be brave over a conversation and text versus face-to-face body language, interpretations, personalities. So I think a lot of that disconnected and people just kind of shelled up and it was like, oh, well, I don't have to answer. I don't have to deal with it. So a lot of disconnection in the human face-to-face, whereas before you went to the store for everything. You had to compose yourself, and have manners and be respectful. And then it was just like the world shut down. And then everybody's at home. And then now you're dealing face to face with your partner and children and attitudes and personalities and shifts in home dynamics and who's not working, who is working, who's carrying the weight, and then the world opens back up and it's like, where's the normalcy? And it was kind of gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, were there certain types of calls that you were getting more than others? And now that we're out of it, there's different types of calls.
I think it kind of fluctuates, if that makes sense. Whereas before people weren't driving, so there was less accidents, less people on the roads, less road rage. I mean, traffic was great. I used to drive during the time and I was like 360, 71. I'm like, let's go. It's 20 minutes to Austin, downtown.
Oh yeah,
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, sign me up. Absolutely. But at the same time, people being stuck indoors for a lot of times, tensions running high. So a lot of, more domestic related
Gotcha.
incidents,
Okay.
temperaments run high.
As being in that environment day after day, night after night, hearing people in their worst moments at times, how do you take it off? Or are you able to take it off and leave it at the door so that you can go home and have a semblance of a normal life?
I think any responsible 911 person or any first responder, anybody in that type of field, still has a bit of it with them. But I do turn it off, essentially. But it's so engraved in me as a person to like completely shut it off would be a lie. I'd be lying to you if I told you, oh no, like out of sight, out of mind. No, because I think once you're at that point where it doesn't bother you, then what are we really doing? But I've set boundaries for myself. And that was one of the big things that I learned within my first 2 years of employment was I need to set a healthy boundary for myself because I do have a child at home, and he is younger. He's going to be 14 now, but at the time he was 8, 9 years old. So I allowed myself, I'm like, okay, you have literally from when you leave work to when you park your car. do whatever you need to do. Yell, scream, cry, think about your calls, revisit them, what is, what could have, what, anything and everything that I needed to do, my car ride home, you know. And if I needed to finish out a thought while I was in my car in front of my parking spot, that's what I did. And as soon as that car door opened, I said, okay, 911's off. I'm back to being mom, and my kid needs me.
Vicky is our licensed therapist. I need you to comment on that. Like, I love that approach that she's able to. I'll ask you first before you comment. How did you get that? Like, was that just something you just knew to do, or was it trial and error? Or
Trial and error and therapy. The realization that I needed to talk to somebody. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Asking for help.
Miss Counselor over here?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm so glad I met Valerie because to even recognize that I am in a high stress situation regularly, I don't want to hold that. And then I want to do something about that. What if somebody's in that saying, well, I really don't need that. I can just, no big deal. How would someone would approach that? How would you approach that?
Oh my gosh. So let's start back. I was thinking when I was coming in, I was in college, and I used to do dispatch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So the secret comes out.
I was like, wait a what?
She tells us now.
Right.
So there's some things I worked with the campus police, and they got me into the dispatch room one day and said, "Okay, you're doing pretty good. Let's go ahead and train you to do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so, and I think I remembered it because it is kind of nerve wracking. But then at that time, not even thinking where I was going as far as a career, it's like I hope I don't get a call. I hope I don't get a call. I hope I don't get a call that's on the other end of that because that's disturbing. And thankfully I didn't. I will say it's difficult. I mean, you know, when you turning stuff off, especially when you're working in high stress situations, and even as a counselor, when I was doing it, first started addiction, I took people home. Yeah, because they don't, you know, on this side, they usually don't teach you
Yeah.
to do that. But because of my family, it was like, no, I can't carry all this stuff with me 24/7. The idea that you got a therapist was absolutely fantastic. The one thing you said that I thought was interesting is when you get to a point where it's like, well, I don't care.
Yeah.
Especially in a position where you're the help, you're the one that
Life or death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. How do you hold space for kindness, respect, and empathy when you get to that point where you're saying, I don't care? And you sound like the person that does care, but there are people out there that are in certain positions, including the profession that I'm in, that really don't care. And that's a lack of humanity, so a lack of caring for humanity. But it's this teaching that I have to prioritize myself
Yes.
that keeps, and my family, that keeps you kind of grounded. People that tell me, I don't care, you know, I'm saying, okay, you say that, but it's holding space within your body somewhere,
It
and in
almost
your
sounds
mind.
like it almost sounds like they're being numb. Like I can't care. Like it's too heavy. So let me just numb it out.
And they do
know.
it subconsciously.
Right.
You know, they putting that wall up like,
Yeah.
I'm going to ignore this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people are just, they really don't care.
But we're glad that Valerie does.
Hey, I'm
We're
absolutely
grateful that
good.
Valerie does. You know, I was thinking about this too. Like, what happens, when you can't shake a call? So I think you said it earlier. If you can't get that thought out, you have learned this. You know, I got to get this out before I go in. Have there been times when it was longer than what you initially thought, and you really had to get it out?
So a few years back, I actually took my first line of duty death, where an officer eventually
Yeah.
died. He didn't die instantly in that moment, but he was involved in a collision against an 18-wheeler where his patrol vehicle went under, and I took the call from the truck driver, and I could to this day, I could still hear his screams. And I mean, it eventually led to panic attacks, stress, anxiety, coming to work. And I had only been a call taker maybe 8 months.
Wow.
And I honestly felt that I wasn't deserving of that pain, ironically, because I felt I haven't been doing this job that long. I shouldn't be feeling this way. Why am I guilty? Why do I feel this weight on me? Like, you know, there's people that have been here 5, 10 years and they're not feeling like this. Like, they've been through the trauma. I barely started. And it was a supervisor that was like, honey, I don't care if you've been here a day or two. That type of call is that type of call, regardless of the years of experience. You know, and it was really just kind of taking a step back and be like, I'm human. You know, I feel, you know. And that really was one of the first times that I was like, okay, I do need to talk to somebody, and it's okay. And I thought maybe I wasn't worthy to do my job, or I wouldn't be able to do my job. And they're like, you can do your job still and still care and still have days where you cry, you know, and days where it feels sad and heavy, and then you process it through and you wake up another day and you say, okay, how can I help somebody today? You know, so it was really just taking that step back, allowing myself to process the emotions, ask for help. And it's so hard to ask for help, you know, and just not even in our work. I think just as human beings, as women, you know, as parents, as mothers, you know, as friends and confidants, any type of capacity, it is hard to ask for help, you know. So just reminding myself that and giving myself some grace that, hey, we even the strong need help, and that doesn't stop us from being strong.
Oh, it doesn't.
But it's taken years and experience. You know, so just reflecting back on that now, I wish I would have known maybe 5 years ago, just give myself a little bit more grace. And it's okay to step back. And so I'm actually a trainer as well. So I train new call takers. And that's one of the first things that like I instill them. It is okay to feel. It is okay to be unsure. It is okay to ask for help. Because if you don't ask for help for now, I can't guarantee if you're going to be able to do it later. And there's no shame in that at all. So yeah, asking for help.
Have you ever had to deal with somebody who initially thought, well, I'll ask, but then you were not able to ask, but you were able to have a better relationship with them and reach out and say, I mean, or does that even happen? Like
in our environment, it happens a lot because we do have very strong personalities. You know, some of us are a little bit more approachable. Like you said, I mean, I think we hit it off pretty great, you know, and just conversation. It wasn't even one particular, you get that vibe with people. So I think it's very important that you find your person, regardless of what it is. And I tell people all the time, if I'm not your cup of tea, that is okay. If you need me to help you find your person, I can help you find your person, because I think it just makes life easier, just in general. Just like I tell my own child, like, if I'm not your person, that's okay. Let's find you your person, you know. And I think friendships, you know, help us define that, you know, even work dynamics, you know, if one supervisor isn't, that's okay. It is okay to say, hey, let me find my person, you know. So finding, you know, there was a different supervisor that had like a different approach, and it was like, okay. And then I felt comfortable. So it was okay not the first person being my person, but really finding a person to help you.
So now, question. Because you were a respiratory therapist.
Yes.
From that position to what you do now, what changes have you seen in yourself since you started this job, this position?
It's so different. Like before it was hands-on, the emotion, the face-to-face, and now there's a bit of a disconnection, but it's a different type of disconnection. It's like more of a, I'm not there to help you go through it. Like I'm not there to help you take the burden off. You know, where I was a respiratory therapist, there was an 18-month-old that the mom had left him in the bathtub. And he was put on life support because he had basically drowned, you know, and he's put on life support. In that moment, there was nothing that I could do for them. We did everything that we could, you know, but there's still that person to person, like I can reach out, I can touch you, I can put a hand on your shoulder, you know, I can show you my empathy and my sympathy and that, you know, and body language, you know, we get so much off of that, you know, and even just like our vibe, like we were talking about, you that resonates off of certain people, and, you know, people absorb it. And so the disconnection from the phone is trying to relay that over the phone with a tone of voice, you know, the pauses, the sympathy, the words of, you know, encouragement. So just trying to find a different dynamic of how to do that. It is a little bit more disconnection in the sense, and then there's so many ideas and thoughts that run through our head, like, what are they actually seeing in that moment? You know, so we're picturing like, okay, how can I help them through this? Can I tell them to step out of the room? Can I tell them to step away? Can I tell them to take a deep breath? Can I tell them to just, you know, close your eyes, take a moment. Now what do we need to do next? So that bit of disconnection of not having that person-to-person contact has been, I think, one of the biggest transitions, doing it over the phone versus in person.
Well, it sounds. So you've had to learn to communicate the empathy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And be genuine, because I can tell you all day, I'm so sorry. Or I can tell you, I'm really sorry that you're going through that. Is there anything that I can do to make this better for you? You know, but genuinely meaning it. You can hear that in somebody's voice. You know, so like we talked about earlier, when there is that, like, what are you doing when you lose it? You know, like, it's okay to take a step back and say, okay, what do I need to do to get that back? Or can I get it back?
Yeah.
Or recognizing, like, maybe it's gone and now it's a time and shift, you know, change in life. So
And you said you're a trainer as well. So, in that, how long does it take to become, I guess, a 911 operator, going through the process of training initially? And then once you're in there, is there like peer support and other kind of groups that help you along the way?
but you bring that up, I'm also peer support. I swear I'm not the manager that changes hats, but and I'll transition into that of how. But so you start your application process, and it takes about 4 to 5 months to go through the application process, and it's about 9-10 steps. Once you clear all of that, you start your classroom training, which is 4 weeks. Depending if you need a little bit extra classroom training, either more emphasis on title codes, like if you call in, there's somebody breaking in my house. The background portion of it is like what we coded and whatnot, and translate your situation into police talk. So you learn that in the classroom. It's basically translating life events into police talk, and I put it in a computer, and then it makes sense to everybody on our end. So you spend 4 weeks in the classroom doing that. Once you pass all your exams, then you go into 4 weeks of on-the-job training, and that's where you come to me or another trainer. And it's 4 phases. So the first week, we focus on a set of goals, and okay, can you complete these tasks by the end of your first week? Yay, okay, great. Then you go into the second, third, and fourth phase. If you need an extension, I did myself. You know, take another extra week. Maybe you need more help. Mine was geography, like just learning the city, because I had just been so new here.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is true. As a 911 operator, you need to
You
understand
need
where
to-
things are.
I didn't know what a service road was. A feeder road. I didn't know. We don't have those.
Wow, you know, the things you take for granted.
Yeah, people tell me at the turnaround, and I'm like, tell them, what's a turnaround? And they're like, under the highway, and I'm like, I don't know what a
Wow, I never even
You don't think of this
I never
stuff,
think
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so learning all of that. So that was my weakness, I guess you could say. So I was like, okay, an extra week building that up. And then when you do QA, so to make sure that, hey, when we cut you loose,
Right.
you can take a call, and essentially get people the help that they need. We do have peer support, which was one of my goals. So each year I have set a goal for myself to accomplish something new within work, because contrary to what people believe, we just don't take 911 calls.
You don't?
No, I do so many other things at
Really?
911. Yeah, it's like a whole other little world that it's like, you what? Like there's days I don't take 911 calls at all. I'm a 911 call, and there are days I do not take
Can
it.
you share? Is it private?
Yeah, no, I can absolutely share. So one of the goals was peer support, because, I did struggle during that training process. You're put with a trainer, and again, sometimes they're not your person, and that's okay. So it was like, okay, learning different personalities and dynamics. And, so I'm like, so I always tell my trainees as well, if I am not fit for you, I will not take it personal, and trying to match, it's already stressful enough training.
Right.
So if you're not vibing with somebody, why are we going to make that even harder for you?
Wow, yeah, that's true.
I'm glad you are there, Valerie. Well, there's so much emotional intelligence that needs to go into
Yes.
this aspect.
Yeah. You can't just go in and say, okay, I'm just going to do this job.
Yeah, I'm just taking
You have
calls.
to
Yes.
want to do this job.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to want to. And there's days it's hard. And then it's like, okay, why am I here? If I can help one person today. And again, just realigning that focus and like, okay, I cannot go into work if my mindset isn't right. then how am I going to help people? And so my motivation is, if my kid called into 911, would I be able to help him? And that's, I tell everybody that. I tell my trainees that. I tell anybody that across. If you're not done with me in training and I don't feel confident in you taking a call from my son, I have failed you as your trainer. And people are like, you put such an emotional, personal aspect to it. This is somebody's mother, father, grandfather. This is their world when they're calling in. To them, to you, it might not be the biggest emergency. To them, in that moment, it is. So make it matter. Make it matter. So yeah, I do put maybe too much personal, but you just never know. Like if my grandma called in, you better get my grandma some help.
You sure better.
But yeah, there's different positions that we're trained at as well at in 911. So we have a control center. Detectives call up there. Different police agencies. So like somebody from Bastrop could say, hey, do you have any involvement on this person? We're looking for them. Or have you seen this car in your area? Or, have you noticed anything, leaving the scene collisions? It could be anything and everything. And it's just support staff for the floor as well, for 911 floor. If I have a question, I'm calling up to my control center. Hey, I'm not too sure about the situation. The neighbor says that they saw their cousin doing and taking the, yeah. And I'm just, So we have support staff. We have our leads. We have our supervisors. So I'm trained up there as well, just taking calls and just logging on officers, logging them off, and then we also have our teletype division stations where we do warrant confirmations. So our agency is a big agency, so we operate 24 hours, 7 days a week. So we do have a warrants department that is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. But when they're not there, we still need to confirm on a warrant. There's us, a teletype, that do that. Yeah. Enter missing people, stolen vehicles.
Do y'all also do the Amber Alerts and all? Are the alerts? Is that
No,
you?
so that's actually DPS.
DPS does that. Okay.
Yeah. So, but you call in and say, hey, my niece ran away. I'm her guardian. I need to report her as missing. So the officer would go out to you, do the report, and then they send us the information, said, I need this person entered into the national database as a missing person.
Wow.
So you go through training, you get your credentials, you use a specific program to be able to do that. And so there's days, I don't actually even pick up a 911 call.
Wow. But even all of that is like, it's just
Behind the
lot.
scenes that you don't think about.
And it's a lot. And,
Yes.
And because it's a lot, we talk about this often. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Correct.
So the peer support group, I believe, is one of those things that people can maybe get some camaraderie, get some advice, vent, all of those things. But how does that kind of work? Like, is that something that's voluntary, or is it something that you encourage, that peer support?
It's completely voluntary. You go through training as well. You go through, we have our Texas Commission on Law Enforcement license. So everybody, even that's a telecommunicator, 911 dispatcher, has to get licensed through the state of Texas. So they host classes specifically for peer support. And then APD has their own peer support training as well, internally. So you go through that training as well. And then you decide on what level you're going to provide peer support. Am I going to provide it within my department? Am I going to branch out to officers, detectives? So it really just depends on your level of commitment as who you want to basically service. So there's days I'm at work and I'm like, all right, peer support check-in. How's everybody? How are you doing? How are you doing? And they're like, really bad. I'm like, you need me? You need something? You need me to take you off the floor? You need to talk about something? So they're like, you're so crazy. I'm like, hey, you have two choices coming into this building. You can let this place take you over, or you can take it over and be like, you know what, I'm gonna make the best of it, and this is what we're gonna do today. So I'm like, peer support check-ins, and I just walk up and down the hallways. I'm like, peer support, everybody need peer support. You need peer support, I got peer support.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's when you look at a peer support versus, just talking to somebody who may not understand, why is that talking to people that really get it helpful?
I don't
Talking to other people.
I don't want to take it home sometimes. I don't, and I don't have family here in Texas. Everybody's back home in California. It's literally me and my son here and the family that I've made, through APD and work and whatnot. And there's just sometimes they just don't get it. And I don't want to give that to them sometimes, because It's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot some days, and even though sometimes it's not catastrophic or it's not life changing or it's just a lot of stimulation, just dealing with the public. It is overstimulated. Sometimes I don't want to give that off to people that I care about. Now I will. I will talk to my mom, and I have an aunt, and I have really close friends. And my best friend, she also works for APD, but she's a crime analyst, so she gets it. So there's aspects of her job that she vents to me, and me vice versa, and so we kind of like balance that out, and it cancels out, and then it's like, okay, I'm done talking about work. Like, what's for dinner?
Yeah, I love that. And first responders are kind of like taught to be strong and
Yeah.
we don't have any issues. And so asking
Yes.
for help can probably feel like a weakness for some.
It does for a lot of people, unfortunately. That's why I try to take a lighter approach to it, even though it is a heavy topic. But I do believe that humor helps engage or pull in people that might have been a little bit more resistant to be more apprehensive towards it. Like, oh, well, she makes it so light and it's so easy. And just, hey, can we talk about something? Or let me just kind of chip a little bit away, and just kind of get a little nugget here and there and, get people help.
Yeah, that's Vicky. When we talk about this oftentimes, pouring from an empty cup, finding peace, getting outside of the environment. What does that do also when you think about from a mental perspective? Like she has this saying. What is it?
Back up, breathe, and be quiet.
Back up, breathe, and be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When that thing just gets you, it's do
Yeah.
that. And so talk a little bit about why that this whole component of
Is
allowing
important.
yourself to release. Because what does it do when you hold it in, even physically?
Stress, heart attacks, and everything else that comes along with that. Um, yeah, you know, stress, heart attacks, blood pressure, physical illnesses, mental overload, um, body changes. Your body holds a lot of stress. And I was thinking about it when you were talking earlier because there's this thing, like, I guess, I don't know if it's secondary trauma. It's like you experience trauma. When you see it or when you hear it, you automatically ended up being.
So they can be like by taking the call, and although you are not physically there, you're visualizing. It's like your body is in the moment with them as well.
So, I would think that after a call, especially one that's pretty heavy, you just back up, breathe, and be quiet thing or something, or some kind of way so you can release it at that moment because it will stay with you, can. And it's crazy because when I first started doing the work that I do, we were told that you turn it off. You don't you don't you can't care. And this was 30 years ago, and I started, like, how do you hear stuff and not care?
And not care.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people that can do that, but I'm not one of them. And the people I tend to associate with are not that kind of person where you hear something traumatic or you hear somebody's story and you're like, oh, I can just turn this off. That's over there behind this. No, it's not.
Yeah.
And so you take it in.
Yeah. And Valerie talked a little bit about giving yourself grace. Like sometimes I think we're holding on, and then if I can't do anything about it, when I've got to figure out a way to release myself
Oh, yeah.
from it so that I'm not continue to hold on and well, I could have did this and what's going on and trying to just figure out how to
Physically release all of that.
and then give myself grace. And so maybe for some when they say I don't care, it's not that they don't care. Maybe that's the way they can trigger
Their coping mechanism.
mechanism of I can't care about that. I can't care about that because I got to focus over here. And I bet that's a challenging dance for some. Like it's wow. I never think about the person behind the phone. Like that's not the thought
What are they
that comes.
receiving?
Yeah, the operator that's receiving the call, and for you guys to be able to stay so calm when someone's on the phone, have you ever had to have at times where someone is so irate or you can't, and we're not getting it, that it's okay to, hey, let me get somebody else to come in, or how does that work?
In extreme circumstances, you could. We do have a messaging system where we can message like our leads and our supervisors and say, hey, this one's, I need help. And they will come down literally and either sit there with you, stand next to you, guide you. Me personally, I haven't had that instance. I have seen other call takers come across it where they're like, hey, I need some assistance on that. And something just as simple as someone standing there next to you. It's just literally knowing that there is someone there in the trenches with you as well. So we do have resources like that, like, hey, or you flag down your person next to you. It's as simple as like, hey, come here. When I've gone into work days where it's like, I need somebody to sit next to me, and it's literally finding a buddy at work, and I'm like, hey, it's a bad day today. I'm just feeling up here, whereas normally, my baseline's here. I don't know what it is. I just need my person and find my little buddy, and it's like, okay, I know I'm going to laugh with this person today, and we're going to joke around, and it's going to be okay. But knowing that there are those resources at work, and that's one of the big things that we do try to harbor is the mental health component.
good.
Like it's
That
really
is good.
important, and it's just trying to break down those walls that have been in place for so long, the stigma and everything else. And it's hard. It's going to take time. That's just the reality. And everybody's not going to be receptive to it. You have generations that it's in
Yes.
your head. It's in your head. Culture, me speak,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
without going
yeah.
too much into the rabbit hole, but suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
when you're engraved, and you got essentially a river's depth worth and trying to detour it off now and caving away and digging away and little by little crevices and streams and trying to branch that out. So I think it's just going to take time, so that's one thing that I try to instill in my now 13-year-old, like, hey, it's okay to not be okay. There was not too long ago, this kid, he's like, looks at me, I'm feeling antisocial today. And I was like, okay, antisocial. So what are we doing about that? He's like, I'm going to my room. And I was like, okay. And he does a slow, like the whole Homer Simpson back into the bush type deal. And he closes the door. He's like, bye, mother.
That's cute.
And I'm like, and I had to step away because for a moment I was like, ew, what do you mean? You don't want to be social with your mom? But then it's like, okay, you work at instilling this, hey, you have a voice. Speak up. This is how he's coping. He's hormonal. He's got a lot going on in his head. Sometimes I feel overstimulated, and there's some times where I'm just like, hey, baby, I just want to sit on my couch and just, I'm a mom, but I don't want to be a mom. Like, and not in a bad way, but I just kind of
Just in
like,
a real way.
you know? So then I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, don't ask me for anything. Why are you hungry? You're always hungry.
It's crazy.
That is so true.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yes. So I'm
We get
like,
it.
Yeah, we absolutely.
I'm glad, because sometimes I'm like, oh my God, why am I like this?
That's crazy.
That's peer support right here.
Right,
Mom,
all
peer
the
support.
time, all the time. So because you talked about, you have the younger generation of people that do this kind of work,
Yes.
and they're taught that you're gonna have days, you're gonna have moments. It's okay for you to feel the stuff, but there's an older generation that are taught
Yeah.
you're not allowed to feel. You're not.
Yes.
Yeah, and it brought me back a lot of experiences in different places because your dad was in the military, my ex-husband was in the military, and you see the older guys,
Yes.
and they walk around like, this stuff doesn't affect me. This doesn't, and I can imagine you've seen that where there's an older crew that's like,
Just
I'm not going to be
yeah,
impacted by this stuff. They just put on this.
absolutely.
Mask.
Yeah. Now, in my experiences with guys that were especially in the military, and the older, and this was 30 years ago. It was over 30 years ago, and I can remember having guys that were like staff sergeants first. They were hit some rank, I guess. And some of the stuff they would say, but then they'd go home and I'd find them on my caseload because they were drinking or they were
Coping in negative ways.
abusing their spouses and things like that. But on the job was the job. You had to do it, and that's how they stuffed all that stuff down. And I can imagine that you see the same, that you've experienced that same personality.
Oh yeah, I go up to people. I'm like, "Do you need a hug?" And again, it's
I
my
can
humor
imagine the
sometimes.
response.
And they're looking at me like, "No," and I'm like, "You look like you need a hug." Or I'll just be like, "Who hurt you?" They're like, "Valerie, go away," and I'm like, "But I made you laugh, so if you need anything, let me know." You
Yeah.
know, and we know that we can't change that when it's engraved so deep in just somebody's being. You know, and again, generation after generation it's just going to take time and consistency. You know, I'm big on consistency. I can't just tell you I'm going to be here for you and not check on you ever again.
Yeah.
You know, accountability as well, just as us as just human beings. You know, your face. She's like, accountability.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's a level of that's a level of empathy in you for the other people.
Yeah.
That well, I said the other for your coworkers that have come through a generation of you can't feel, you can't do
Yeah.
this, you can't. You have to put on this stoic face and kind of be the robot in the room.
Or be labeled mental health as a bad thing, and it's like, no, it's not. Why does it have to be a bad thing? And it wasn't until I went through, like, you know, anxiety and panic attacks and this, that, and it was like I was shamed. Like, I felt ashamed because it's like I grew up with, we don't talk about that. What's wrong? It's all in your head. You're just crazy. You're just being dramatic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm
You're
not
being
being
too much?
dramatic.
Yeah.
They're like, no, just, you know. And I'm like, why is it such a bad label with it when we're incorporating the word health. That's supposed to mean positivity, something good, growth, you know. So why are we labeling it? Why does it have such a bad stigma against it? And just, again, like we said, you know, changing that mindset is just going to take time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Valerie, where do you get that from? Like, where are you drawing your insight from?
Oh, honey. How much time do we have? 'Cause life. One word, I got life. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I'm this, I'm a warrior. No, I'm a survivor. You know, honestly, knowing that I don't want to instill in my child the same upbringing that I did. Now, I didn't have a bad childhood, and by no means do I want to mean that. But I do honestly believe that each cycle should get better and better and better and growth. You know, I went through a really bad marriage where, you know, I didn't know it at the time, but I was married to a narcissist for 10 years, you know, and lacking strength, knowledge, you know, experience. You know, I got married at 27 and I thought I knew it all. I'm older, you know, I've lived my life, gone through my, woo, what was I wrong? 27, I was still a baby.
Right.
But I wanted you to go
Yeah.
back to 27.
Yeah.
You know, 45 now, we're not counting any years or anything. But, you know, back then I thought like, oh my God, I got it. I'm good. You know, I had my son 5 days before I turned 32, you know, and then I thought I had it all figured out. And then, no, I did not have it all figured out. And my bubble burst, you know, and life happened in a lot of different ways. And just the buildup and accumulation of experiences and just thinking like, either I'm gonna lay down and give up, or I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna survive this and I'm gonna fight. And I don't have it all figured out yet. I don't. I still have a lot more, and I wish I knew that. And again, talking back to giving ourselves some grace,
Yes.
and just really not implementing that enough. That hey, it's okay not to have it figured out. And I think with our older generation, it was like, you should be married by 20, 25. You should have
Yeah.
your children no later than, you know, and it was, you should go to college and you know, all of this stuff. And it was like, all my pieces didn't fit in. So I felt like, oh my God, I'm broken. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And it's like, no, it's okay to not have it all figured out. You shouldn't have to have a timeline. You should have your own timeline. So I think it was just accumulation of life experiences, just kind of either I'm gonna give up. And I have an actual exact moment where I can tell you where my life really pivoted. I was back in California. It was not too long before I moved here, and I was standing in this living room of a studio apartment in the ghetto. I mean, pretty ghetto. And I'm standing here and I'm like, I'm divorced. I have a 3-year-old. And I'm looking around and my mom's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I can't do this. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, I can't do this. She goes, it'll be tight financially. It'll be, and I was like, no, it's not even a financial thing. I can't do this. I can't live this kind of life. And she looked at me and said, my kid deserves better. And about not even 6 months later, we were in Texas.
You know, that's crazy because you said that, and same thing.
Yeah.
We were living in Hawaii, and I had my daughter at that time, and I thought about I'm not going to pass this down to my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't want them to live this, so I found myself back in Texas. and with people that are young, because I'm 65, so my kids that are younger that I talk to a lot of time, I'm like, because they start feeling it at 30, like, I should be married. Why?
No.
Like, married? What? Good girl, you better
stop that.
For real. No. No,
Yeah.
it's a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that right now because
Yeah.
now there's conversations of your path is your path.
Absolutely.
There's not just one way to success or life or even fulfillment.
No.
You know, and once you know who you are, spending time knowing who you are, then finding the things that bring you joy and then make a living with that. When you mentioned earlier, and I want to get back to the pivot, so many of us can be in a space where we've been doing this thing. I've been working for 30 years, or whatever that thing is, and then boom, it's ripped away from you.
Yeah.
But that thing inside of you is just
I'm not done
bubbling
yet.
up. Yeah, I'm not done yet. I like how what you said was, let me find something else that allows me to still feel fulfilled in the thing that brings me joy versus I'm done. I can't do anything because I can't do it that way anymore.
Yeah.
I have to do it a different way. And that, I mean, you're just even helping me remind myself from that same thing. I can't do that anymore. I can choose to be sad about the loss. I can grieve the loss. Or I can also move into a what now can I do
Yeah.
that
like
still
the
brings me
word.
joy.
Pivot.
Pivot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Because what inside of you was this, I still need to help.
Yeah. Like I have value. You know, it's funny because I had this conversation with my son today. I was like, son, what is your value as a person? Like, value yourself, you know, hold yourself with high integrity, hold your head up high, know that you're a good person, you know, and we were talking about, believe it or not, an incident with one of the men that was here yesterday.
Okay.
And he said a comment, I was like, I'm going to eat these gummy bears. Or the lady said, you know, but it sparked a conversation with my son as a young man where I was like, what is your value, son? What do you value most about yourself that you feel you're going to progress into to an adult with? You know, what's going to help carry you through life? You know, your value as a person. Like, are you a good person? Do you have empathy? Do you share emotions? Are you capable of emotions? You know, because I do honestly believe that a strong foundation now, which a lot of children, teenagers are lacking, you know, will progress into adulthood. Now I'm just trying him to avoid some of the things that, you know, our generations went through, you know, and just building a stronger foundation, because I think had we maybe had a little bit more understanding or a little bit more
Absolutely.
you know, I think things would have turned out a lot different, easier,
Easier,
you know, just an easier understanding
Well,
even.
that question, what do you value about yourself? I don't remember hearing that too much.
I don't,
No.
I like that question.
Yeah, what do you value
What do you
about
value
you?
about yourself?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, because you being a respiratory, something drove you into respiratory therapy as well, and it had to be that caring person inside of you.
Yeah.
The,
I'm the oldest of three, you know, and I saw my mom struggle a lot. She had me really young, you know, had me at 17. She was married to my dad at 16. My dad's a lot older than my mom, which that's why I was like, oh, ma'am, this happened? Like, your grandparents gave permission, ma'am. My dad's 12 years older than my mom. So one thing that I will say, you know, having a young mom, at least she was like, hey, go out there, have fun, mess up, live life, make mistakes, don't have it all figured out. but at the same time, she was also really hard on me. Like, you need to behave, you need to not be a teen mom, and it was like, I'm so confused. And then you got to watch your brothers, but be responsible, but get good grades. And I'm like, I'm so confused. Like, what am I doing? So literally just, kind of combining everything and just, again, life, and events and just waiting till I was older to get married. And I was like, well, I want to have fun. I want to be a teen mom. And it was like, you better not have, relations. Because, and I was raised by my stepdad since I was 2.5 and very old school, traditional, Mexican. And it was like, what are you doing out there? And I'm like, friends. We have friends here in America. And then I was the, oh, she's so sarcastic. And I'm like, life. But because I think, those generations, it was more of like, what are you producing?
Yeah.
What, versus what do you have to show for it? And it was like, I've
Yeah, I
built
like that.
this, I've brought home this, I bring home a paycheck, I support my family. And it wasn't that emotional aspect
Right.
of it. It was like, what are you doing? Like, I'm supporting a family of 5. I'm the sole provider. And it was like, okay, the male has his role. Though, yeah, not to get too much into that, but that's how it was. It was like, what are you producing versus like, oh, I hug my kids, because that didn't bring value back then.
Right.
It was, is there food on the table? Are the kids clothed? Is there honestly just a roof over their
Right,
head?
That's what they had to do.
Yes.
So producing versus value, that's pretty good.
I do like that.
Yeah.
And both have equal space.
They do.
Yeah.
Because you need both.
Yes.
You need the provider, you need the physical, what are you doing, but also the human connection and those emotional support aspects that make you who you are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because many times if you don't get a chance to share that component, you're struggling like, who am I? And then if it's tied to what I do, and if what I do changes
Yeah.
or is removed or I no longer can do it, where's my value?
Yeah.
To your point, I think we should use that sometimes. Just what is your value?
Yeah.
And think about that for.
And it's different for everybody. That's the
Absolutely.
greatest thing about it. For me, it could be I'm a caretaker, or I'm a provider, or I'm a confidant. It could be so many things. And that's the
Yes.
greatest thing about it.
Yeah, and leaning into that, because we're in this space, especially now with social media, and
Yes.
you got to show all the things. Some of the value is not on that phone. It's just sitting next to somebody, spending some time at the doctor's office or watching TV. That's priceless.
Yes.
And many times we value the things that are not as truly valuable.
I think we value an illusion that is presented. I can go online and I can show you that, crop this, Photoshop that, and give you the illusion that I have it all put together. I think a lot of us focus just on the superficial illusion of like, oh my God, they have it together. Their life must be great. It's like, honey, walk
you
through
only-
that door. There are dishes piled up, laundry, dogs everywhere. You're like hot mess express.
You're not by yourself. It's not all put together.
But it would be so, and I think that also adds to some people's mental challenges because I present myself this way,
Yes.
but that's really not me. And so there's
like
probably a constant, who
Back and
am
forth,
I?
yeah.
And, I better do this. I can't do that because I posted this, or the comments, all the things.
I think kind of almost a disassociation
Yes.
between like what's reality and what's that illusion.
Yes.
Again, and then coming back to your own reality and going back into that like snowball avalanche
Yes.
effect of like, oh my God, it's not. And then you look at, your profile and it's like, oh, I'm not on vacation. I'm not this, I'm not that. And then it's like, you come back to your reality and it's just, I think you build just this, you dig yourself deeper
Yes.
and deeper. Then sometimes just cut it off. Just, you know what?
No.
Cut it off.
And it's unfortunate that our kids now they're born with, of internet and phone and social media. And so this new generation that's going to be coming into the 911 space, I'm curious to see how that, or have you seen some of the younger folks go, oh, she's,
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Everything's on the table
Do,
today.
do they say, can they? Most of them can't handle it, can they?
You know, I love people. I love diversity. You can tell who was not raised right.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, honey, you were raised in front of a tablet.
Wow, really? You did that?
Yeah, they definitely lack, like how we were talking about that interpersonal communication, where like, COVID came and kind of just cut off the world.
Yeah.
And so you have all these COVID kids, or teenagers at the time that were barely starting to like develop social skills, like we're talking like 7th, 8th graders,
Right.
and now they're throwing into like early ages of adulthood, and they grew up in a bubble.
It's true.
And now, they don't know how to take an authoritative voice or approach, because now they're like, why are you talking to me like that? I'm like, because you're not doing what you're told. Because, there was no schedules, there was no boundaries, there was no consistency. It was kind of like you wake up, you log on, do your classwork, and everybody just kind of lived on a different time frame.
They
And
did.
now, there's structure and boundaries and guidelines and, schedules. And they're just like, what do you mean? And I'm like, accountability. Again, going back to the accountability, there was none in that time, where it was just kind of like, and I fell into it too, the no schedule and my kid. And then it was like, whoa, 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 wait. As soon as the kids could go back into school,
You're going.
bye. And some parents did it because it was easier and safer and just keep them in that. But I'm like, 1980 right here. No, you bye. Out the door. Let's go. I need my sleep time. And then I worked nights at the time, so I was like, no, I need you to get on that school bus and go. And not feeling guilty about it. And I think so many people were guilted into, why aren't you home? Why aren't you working from home? And it's like, no, none of us should shame people's decisions. Whatever works in your home works in your home.
Yeah.
And what worked in mine was,
You need to
You gotta go.
you gotta go.
love that. Wow. Okay, we got some work to do with our younger folks who are, because it's really interesting that you say that, because it's a true thing where development of social skills comes with practice.
Yes.
And if you're not practicing,
Where are you learning
you're
from?
learning, yes.
Yeah.
Watching on TikTok, not going to get you social skills in the real. And with that, we are already already out of our program today. Valerie, it was so great just sitting and
It was
talking
amazing.
with
Thank
you
you.
today. For those that may be interested in 911, I want y'all to do this. A call to action is to thank a first responder. Just say thank you. Thank you for what you do. Valerie, thank you
Thank you so much.
for what you do.
It's been amazing.
And the way you
Thank
do it.
And the way you do it, especially
The way you
the
do
way
it.
you do it.
I appreciate it. Thank
'Cause,
you so much.
We like this trainer. And with that, we'll be back in another week. I am Lady Madeline Patterson with my beautiful co-host here, Miss Vicky Lynn Merriweather.
Yeah.
And we're out. See you next time. Peace.
Ooh, sitting all alone, looking out the window, where the walls come tumbling down. That's where I'm happy with me, reflecting on who I am and all I can become. I still have many flaws, but I'm not where I used to be. I am happy with me, happy with me, happy with